You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for December 30th, 2022. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live at the unplowed intersection of the sacred and the profane. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. And if you recognize that opening, then you are a longtime listener, because that was how we opened the show 12 years ago on December 31st, 2010.
2010.
Yep.
And we are celebrating an anniversary in January of this podcast.
We sure are.
We will have been podcasting for 13 years.
For 13 years. 13, and I don't think, we might have missed one, but I don't think we've ever missed a Friday.
We took a vacation in October, but then we did a podcast on Tuesday that week.
Right. We
podcasted on our wedding day.
We did. We podcast after surgery.
After surgery.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a while, and house is flooded and bathroom is messed. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
so many different things, ups and downs.
Yes. Life happens to people.
Life happens, but the podcast goes on. And next year, starting next week, as a matter of fact.
What? Next week
We're
already?
Going to 2 episodes a week.
Holy crap. That's next week? Oh my God. I should get my Christmas shopping done. I have slacked off horribly.
Our Christmas was disjointed, shall we say.
Yeah, the last 10 days, probably longer than that. The last 10 days have been.
But the last 2 weeks have been very disjointed for us.
Yes. There's just a lot of things.
Driftglass had his procedure.
I did.
And everything went fine with that. But that was a day of prep and a day at the hospital.
Uh-huh.
And so that just took a chunk out of our week.
It did.
And
we had a plumbing problem.
And then an electrician came that afternoon to do some maintenance. So 2 in one day. That was something else.
Yep.
And then our children had tickets for Southwest Airlines this week.
Yes, they did.
Like thousands of other people.
Well, and one of them has had COVID.
And one of them, Junior Dude, had COVID when he was at his dad's house for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
He was staying in a hotel, so he was able to quarantine much more easily than he otherwise would have been able to do.
Yes.
But boy, he was miserable with that. And he's fully vaccinated. I mean, he's even had the Omicron shot, and he still got it. So you really need to mask up on airplanes and everywhere else.
Yes, indeed.
When you go out in public. It's a horrible flu, and people are getting really sick. And but he's better now. He's bounced back, and
but we had
quarantined.
We had planes, trains, and automobile to get him back home. We really did. It really was.
It really was.
Okay,
middle child flew home on Christmas Day as planned.
Yep.
And she was stuck in Chicago while they found a flight attendant to get on her plane to fly her to St. Louis. And, a lot of this was weather. A lot of this was legacy computer systems, apparently, at Southwest. The right wing seems to be very eager to blame Pete Buttigieg for this somehow because he's the transportation secretary.
He's the time-traveling secretary who went back and screwed up all the computer systems
right,
from 1980.
and told Southwest CEO to just let it ride for, have computer systems from the 80s and that'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
What has happened this week is Pete Buttigieg has been handed a mandate.
Yes, he has.
To regulate the fuck out of these airlines.
Holy crap. Who could? Oh, yeah. And we had a bomb cyclone. So
we had a bomb cyclone. As most of the country was in a deep freeze.
And we, honest to God, we dodged. We didn't get 3 feet of snow.
No, we were fortunate with the lack of snow. But
1/2 inch of snow.
We did have an appointment to take our old van.
Yes, we did.
In for a regular oil change and tire rotation when it was -4 degrees outside on Friday, the Friday before Christmas.
Yep. We got a lot done before the end of the year.
We did it.
We did. before the end of the year, and your father's apartment flooded, or
My dad's apartment flooded. It looks like he's going to have to move.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that bad. So,
but other than that, it's been
other than
really
the fire
nice...
department breaking his door down to turn the electricity off in his building because the water was flowing in so fast and they were afraid of an explosion and so forth. He has friends and family nearby, and they were all very, very good to him, and he's going to be all right.
Yeah, and this occasioned us to think about, frankly, how lucky we are.
Yeah,
that so many things didn't happen that could have gone so much worse so quickly, and they didn't. And there could have been health news that was bad, and it wasn't.
Well, and that's exactly what I thought. My dad said a tragedy has occurred, and I went, "Oh shit!"
Oh no!
Because he's been through cancer treatment.
Yeah, a couple of times.
And I thought, here it is. What the thing I keep putting off in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The terrible words that so many families get of it's inoperable. It's
absolutely.
I have 6 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And this was my apartment flooded, and I went, well, who cares about that?
Good. Burn it down.
You don't have cancer? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And since it has been an eventful couple of weeks, we decided for the end of the year episode, we were going to slack off and send you over to John Heilman and the circus. But after 2 whole years of podcasting, they decided to take a couple of weeks off because podcasting.
They're exhausted.
They're exhausted. They're exhausted over there.
You ran in and told me that. You said you got to listen to this little part of the podcast that they're just exhausted after 2 whole years.
They can't even stand up anymore. They're weak, and I understand that. Believe me, I do. So then we thought, hey, let's just do a recap of what Olbermann is doing. But he took a week off. So we're looking for people to toss this podcast to who can sort of give us a little break.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of listeners will send them over to Keith Olbermann.
Here. So, go. Oh, he's off. Oh, well, what about the Pod Save America? They're taking a couple of weeks off. Likewise, the Stephanie Miller Show, which is taking a couple of weeks off. It was weird to hear broadcasts, as I did from, just as Ukraine was being invaded, and this Zelensky guy doesn't sound like he's really up for the job. Now nobody's hot takes all age well, so I understand that. But it was like, I don't need to listen to this. This is et cetera, et cetera. So we went down a long list of all the usual A-list podcasters, and they're all out of town. Even the
Which
Bulwark,
means we're doing something wrong, Driftglass.
I know.
If everybody's doing it,
No.
we definitely should be doing it.
Just the opposite, Bluegill. Just the opposite. We are the only game in town. We have no competition this week.
Cool.
Everyone else is gone. I mean, this is like Krusty the Clown taking over the last television station in Springfield. And he's on 24 hours a day. We're it. We're it. You're stuck with us. There ain't nobody else. This is 3 a.m. at the bar. Ain't nobody here but us. So you might as well buy us a drink and get cozy, because welcome to 2023 with Driftglass and Bluegill.
Oh, that's funny.
And you have a special.
Well, listen, we're having our 13th anniversary this month. We first podcasted on, I think it was January 10th, 2010.
Yeah.
So now it's coming up, and we're going to have our 13th anniversary show. So I have an offer for you guys out there.
I think we should take 2 weeks off, but okay.
What?
I think we should take those 2 weeks off.
2 weeks off? No, we're not going to do that.
Let Olbermann carry us. Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that. We love our listeners. We love sharing with them and hearing from them.
We do.
And I'm going to talk about that in a sec. But I have an offer for you. Anyone who between now and the end of January donates any amount ending with 13 cents and provides a good address for themselves.
Yeah.
A mailing address.
Yeah.
We'll get a handwritten thank you postcard from me. I will handwrite a note to you and mail it. So I would like to offer as well my incredibly nearly illegible handwriting to that. Yeah, I was going to say you could write a thank you note too, but no one could read it. So be like, is this my prescription, or is this a note from the professional left?
Yeah, the key is the correct address.
Yeah, we mailed out some Christmas cards to people, and I am going to post our Christmas card
Uh-huh.
at my blog, Blue Gal, and you can just Google Blue Gal and look at it. I might put it up at our podcast website too. I'll see if
fine too.
I'll see if I can do that.
That's fine too. It really messes with our business plan if we're selling your addresses to other people and half of them don't work.
Selling our addresses to anybody.
Edit that out, Blue Gal. Edit that out.
We absolutely do not sell your address to anybody, ever.
That is immoral and
no. But I totally understand why people will not give their address to PayPal or Patreon or anybody.
Yeah, no, it's just one of the prices you pay for using that service. I understand.
Yep. Anyway, if you didn't get a Christmas card from us and you're a donor, and you didn't get a Christmas card from us, it's because it was returned to sender, or you're overseas, and we're going to make sure the overseas people know where to go and look at our Christmas card, or you didn't give your address to any of the internet payment sites where you donate to us, and I totally understand that. So,
or you're on a military base and you would rather not.
And you don't want to. Both sides don't bumper sticker for your military vehicle. We understand that too.
hey, you know what? What? Speaking of people who give false addresses.
George Santos is going to be sworn in as a Republican congressman.
Uh-huh.
No doubt about it. There's a big problem that House Republicans have, which is George Santos has lied about everything, including where his mother died. But their big problem is he has not told 1/100th of the lies that their standard bearer, Donald Trump, has told.
Mm-hmm.
And I am surprised that the so-called 45th president hasn't sued for trademark infringement.
Yeah. Geez.
Hey, I'm the big liar here. I'm the one that tells the big lies. But like Al Capone, the thing is, this $700,000 that he loaned to his campaign, he forgot to treat it as income before he loaned it.
Oopsie.
I forgot to pay taxes. It's an old Steve Martin stand-up line, right?
3 little words.
First, get $700,000. Then loan it to your campaign. No, don't.
2 little words in the English language.
Yeah, I forgot to treat it because it's income wherever it came from. And prosecutors, and I've known a few prosecutors in my day, they know where the low-hanging fruit is, and the low-hanging fruit is the IRS.
Oh, yeah, because it's all paperwork.
It's all paperwork. And if you didn't file the paperwork, then you're in violation. So proving where the money came from is a whole lot harder than proving you didn't pay taxes and you didn't declare it as income and you didn't file as a tax-paying citizen should. Oh, you have this money and it's income and you pay taxes on it.
There's a whole bit from Breaking Bad with Saul Goodman advising Jesse Pinkman how to invest his money. He goes, so you got all this money, you have no visible means of support, you're hanging with the chickie babies and you're partying all the time. And what do the authorities see when they see you? And he goes, drug dealer? He goes, no, worse, tax cheat.
Right.
And tax cheat is so much easier to prove and so much worse and so easy to go to jail over. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is Harold Washington got busted for this, and his birthday was tax day. So it's not like you get to pretend otherwise, unless you're the president of the United States and you own the IRS. And you basically tell them through not so subtle means, don't you dare fucking audit my taxes.
Right. And Steve Mnuchin says, I'm going to make out fine with this.
Sure.
Me and my trophy wife are happy to comply with you, Mr. Trump, and not go after your taxes.
Well, and what you say all the time about Dick Cheney, who is a monument to evil, is he crosses all his T's and dots his I's. He does all the paperwork.
He and Mike Pence also have pristine tax returns, and they make them public.
Yeah.
Because that is low-hanging fruit, not only for prosecutors, but for liberal bloggers. And why would you hand that to a liberal blogger to be able to come after you when you can give Iraqi oil fields to your friends and no one can prove it? So you make sure your taxes are pristine. And when you decide I'm gonna donate all of the profits that came from my company's movements in Iraq I know I made $26 million off of this invasion of Iraq because my stock went up on my company where they're keeping a seat warm for me. So he donated that money. Dick Cheney donated that money to charity. And the charity he donated to was the hospital that did his heart transplant.
Right. Yeah. We know how that works.
So, right. But you go and look at that transaction, and he did absolutely everything right. He handed that money over to a third party, an independent auditing third party. They made the donation. He did not, unlike Donald Trump and his payment to Stormy Daniels, Dick Cheney did not take a tax deduction from that donation because he didn't want Blue Gal writing about it later.
No, that weighed heavily on his mind.
No, he doesn't want to hand his enemies. He knows the difference between, here's the deal. He knows the difference between using whatever power is available to get money, which is what Donald Trump did, and being rich enough to say money is just a tool to get more power.
Right. Exactly. That's all. The House of Cheney doesn't give a shit about wealth per se.
Whether it's 26 million this year or 126 million next year, whatever.
Doesn't matter. When they're in the private sector, cashing in on all this shit, that's great. But when they're in office, the number one priority is crushing whatever opposition there is to their fascist plan.
Right.
And you do that.
And handing over, dividing up Iraq and pallets of money that get lost. And, no fair remembering stuff, Blue Gal. Come on.
I know. All within the bounds of, the law is kind of sketchy, but within the bounds of no one's going to come after us because why do
and
you
all
hate
the
America?
Secret meetings he held with no documents and no transparency in the office of the vice president.
Yeah, Cheney's never going to jail for that shit.
He's never going to jail for any of that.
Never.
But he made sure that the IRS was also never going to come for him.
That's right. Why leave a loaded gun on the table?
No, you don't leave a loaded gun on the table. You just don't. It's easy not to. It's so easy not to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't easy for George Santos.
No. Well,
and it wasn't easy for Donald Trump either.
No.
And now that we have Trump taxes and we can see everyone knew because his lawyer said so under oath in Congress that he took a tax deduction for the Stormy Daniels payoff.
Well,
but now it's in the tax returns that he did it. So there's actual, not just his word, but you can see it.
And there used to be more or less simultaneous legal and political price to pay for these things.
Yeah.
There's no political price Republicans are going to pay because they have so successfully engineered their base to being reprogrammable meat bags that they don't care.
Well, they have cordoned off their own media.
Right.
And when you play steeplechase, you see it every time you switch from CNN and MSNBC talking about Trump's tax returns, and you switch over to Fox and Newsmax, and they're talking about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah.
And the corrupt Biden, House of Biden.
House of Biden. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why when I hear Never Trumper podcasters complain that you liberals just don't understand. Yeah, no, we do. Boy, do we. We have we've gone gray in the service of writing about your party and your movement and your media, and we've been right every time. We fully the people who never understood the Republican machine, the base, are the leadership of the Republican Party. They thought that dog would never bite through the leash and come after them. Mm-hmm. And we're like, dude, you keep feeding that dog raw meat and rabies, and eventually it's going to get big and angry, and it's going to turn on you. And it did. And all of them are so goddamn shocked. Speaking of which,
yes,
I would like to engage you and our listeners in a quick game of political trivia. We play actually online. You and I play online trivia.
Yes, we do.
The finals are over. We didn't even come close. We didn't even make it out of the quarterfinals.
We did so bad.
We got creamed. But, I take that as a source of pride. The useless shit that's in my head did not correspond to the useless shit they wanted for the finals, and that's fine with me. I can still repose in the knowledge that I can sing the entire Lidsville song. And anyway, so a quick game of political trivia. I'm going to give you a Salon magazine headline and then a citation from my blog, and you get to guess the approximate dates when they were written. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay.
Is this just one quote or many quotes?
There's a headline from Salon, and then there's a couple of sentences from my blog.
Okay, and I'm only supposed to guess one date, right?
The time period.
Time period. Okay.
The time period. Yeah.
Administration or years or
whatever floats your boat, baby.
Okay. All right.
It's all good with me. I love you either way.
I know. All right. Well, you read it and let's see. I'll try to guess.
Okay. The headline is Senate sitting on 420 bills passed by House. Okay. And the quote from my blog is, of course, in a civilized country run by grown-ups, none of these issues and almost none of the hundreds of bills that pass the House and are killed in the Senate would be in any way controversial and would have passed by acclamation long ago. But we do not live in a civilized country. As long as the Fox/Republican Party remains a force in American politics, we never will. So.
Well, that's sitting on 420 bills, I would say, is Republicans taking over the Senate, which happened in 2010. So I would say it's 2011.
You are correct. It's 2010, actually. It's October of 2010.
Oh, it's 2010. But it's the last 2 years of the first Obama administration.
Yes, it is. Both of them are. But the idea that the Republicans don't have to control the Senate to kill bills.
No, they don't.
They can kill them with, 41 votes.
Right.
And they've been doing that right along. They've found a couple of places where a few of them can be peeled off by Joe Biden, but they've been doing it right along. This is from 2010. And I was doing some basic background work on this podcast and looking things up. And I ran across a post of mine from 2010, in which which was a look back. It was a post from 2010, but it was a look back 12 years earlier to the Clinton impeachment, which happened in this month in 1998. And it was just quote after quote after quote by Republicans like Dick Armey and J.C. Watts and Lamar Smith and Charles Kennedy and Bob Inglis. Remember him? Bob Goodlatte, all talking with great piety about the need to impeach a president regardless of what's going on. If he broke the law, how do we live with our grandchildren? How do we
live with our grandchildren, letting the president break the law?
You know what? Those boys and girls are over there fighting in Iraq or defending our country, and we would be letting the troops down. We would be betraying the troops in the field if we didn't
impeach Clinton.
Duty, by impeaching Clinton over a fucking blowjob. Yeah. And they were just wrapped in the piety of their own language. And this was a look back 12 years later at the fact that all of that pious rhetoric about fidelity to the Constitution and the rule of law, and even if there's a hint of impropriety, you need to investigate the shit out of it, because how could we live with ourselves and explain this to our children if we let this pass? Was immediately wiped off the board the minute George Bush came into office.
Oh, yeah.
And George Bush racked up actual crimes, actual unconstitutional, impeachable offenses by the dozen, not just the little ones, but the big ones, like lying us into the wrong war and sanctioning.
Yeah, what about the troops then?
Oh,
that all disappeared. They're fighting the wrong person. The person who was not responsible for 9/11.
And torturing people.
And
bringing back the deficit, and on and on and on and on and on. What happened? Well, the pious rhetoric all disappeared under a big firestorm of, why don't you love America, Blue Gal? Why don't you love it?
Here's what I want to ask you, though. I have noticed this, and maybe it's just the media I consume, and that could be my problem. But the thing that really twists the knife in my gut right now is mainstream media pundits just talking with an assumption that Republicans are going to investigate things that don't exist, like Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
And essentially use the Congress and the congressional calendar to obstruct justice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's just said, just like David Gregory would say, it takes 60 votes to pass anything in the Senate.
Yeah.
Not mentioning at all that this is a complete anomaly, and how dare they? How dare they stop progress in the United States of America for political power and obstruct justice? And how dare they? And that just never comes into it because, as you say, they want to sell dick pills, and they're not paid to do that.
It's a game. It's a show, because the fascist mob will never come for them.
Right.
They'll never burn down their house. They'll never take their life. They'll never erect a noose in front of their home. That's all happening way far away. And they'll never affect me personally, so it's really not important. It's just a game among little people. And it doesn't really matter because I get my tax cuts either way. And the sweep of history through this is how effortlessly that Republican media and the mainstream media wiped away all the pious shit they said to justify Clinton's impeachment when Bush came into office. And then they wiped away all the justifications for executive overreach when Obama came into office, and back came all the pious things about we have to hold him accountable. He's the worst criminal. He's the worst disaster ever to happen to this country. He's a Kenyan communist sleeper cell usurper, and we must stop him at any cost. And now that Barack Obama went away, Donald Trump comes in, all of that past is, again, wiped effortlessly away. And watching this happen over and over again and screaming about it, and people who have control over microphones and cameras just shrug and say, it's all a game. Doesn't matter. I will read you one more quote from this post, and then I will tell you who said it, and you will laugh. How's that?
Okay.
I believe this nation is at a crossroads. One direction points to the higher road of the rule of law. Sometimes hard, sometimes unpleasant. This path relies on truth, justice, and the rigorous application of the principles that no man is above the law. Now, the other road is the path of least resistance. Blah, 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 blah. Shall we follow the rule of law and do our constitutional duty no matter how unpleasant? Or shall we follow the path of least resistance? Close our eyes to the potential law-breaking, forgive and forget, move on, and tear an unfixable hole in our legal system. No man is above the law and no man is below the law. That is the principle that we all hold very dear in this country. Who said that?
I'm going to say Newt Gingrich.
Tom fucking DeLay.
Tom DeLay, bug guy.
Corrupt, literally corrupt, drunken, fascist asshole from Sugar Land, Texas. Tom fucking DeLay had the nerve to stand up and say that about impeaching Bill Clinton, and God did not blow him out of his boots with a well-placed lightning bolt.
Man.
And they're all like this. This is how I know that things are not going to get better anytime soon on the right, because they've always been this way. They've always been this way. And the lie that is now being sold by our friends and our allies and our media is this all started in 2016. All of this nonsense we worry about.
It's only Trump that did it.
It's only Trump and a handful of bad apples. But we can get back to the way things used to be. I don't want to get back to the way things used to be, unless the way things used to be is 1962 minus Vietnam and civil rights violations.
Yeah.
And all the civil rights and cultural improvements we've made since then, and a massive Democratic majority in both houses of Congress, and a genuinely liberal president. That's what I want.
That'd be a good thing to have. Yeah.
Yeah. That's my New Year's resolution. What's yours, Blue Gal?
Well, I had my New Year's resolution. A couple things. I do want to do a shout out to the Pod Save America boys, because one of them in their New Year's resolution said, start more books. Yeah. Not finish more books, but start more books. Uh-huh. And that really opened a window for me, because I do start books and then I don't finish them because I don't like them. And I need to give myself permission to do that.
Yeah.
And not just abandon books, but not let that hang me up to not read anything else. Because that's what I do. It's like, no, I got to read this book now. No, I'm not. I hate it. I'm not going to read it. So
I only made it through the first chapter of The Christmas Sweater by Glenn Beck. I put it down and said, this isn't.
What about The Overton Window by Glenn Beck, though?
Also, just a paragraph in, maybe two. And I put it down and said, I'll get to this later.
Driftglass and I played a game the other night where I read to him descriptions from Audible of audiobooks that had come out, the bestsellers. I went through the bestseller list, and it was something like a group of teenagers break into an abandoned house looking for prescription drugs. And I waited, how many words can I get into this before Driftglass goes, nope. That was a fun game. I want to start more books. I like that one. I also have made peace with the fact that, as somebody who has ADHD and 3 kids and a lot going on, I love paper. I just
Yeah.
love having a piece of paper to remind me to do things. And I pay my bills online, and I do a lot of things online, as you know. But I still love having a piece of paper to remind me of things. So paper planner and stack of paper on my desk and things to remind me to do things. I'm at peace with that.
And a
That said,
well-balanced pen.
and oh yeah, your sister sent us beautiful pens for Christmas.
Oh, yeah, beautiful.
They're so nice. And so, but I do want to downsize my book collection and tidy up the house a little bit for my New Year's resolution.
Sure.
And then, as I said earlier in an earlier podcast, not be impressed with the noise. Shut out the noise when I'm not working. Don't be impressed with what MTG said today.
Right.
It's just noise. It's just noise. And it's not my job to be impressed. It is sometimes my job to report on what the noise is and what they're saying and make fun of it. And ridicule is one of our ridicule and memory are liberal superpowers. Greta Thunberg proved that this week.
Yes, she did.
If you haven't gone and looked up Greta Thunberg, go Google her and find out what she's been up to this week. Because ridicule is a very wonderful power we have. But yeah, I'm going to shut out the noise. I'm going to take care of my house. I'm going to make peace with all of my paper. That's fine. Oh, and I'm knitting for myself this year.
Yes, that's important.
I told my daughters, this is it. You know, I've knit many, many sweaters for you as you have been leaving for college as a way of managing my grief as you go out the door.
Yep.
At least you're surrounded by a sweater that I knit. But now you're both gone. You've both been gone for a year. It's time to knit for mom. So I'm going to do that.
That's right.
What about you? What are your New Year's resolutions, if any?
I plan to listen to the Bulwark podcast with, all the assiduousness and frequency that I don't know. I plan to continue working on the house.
Oh, yeah. The deck and your wonderful tool collection that you've amassed this year.
I have a series of small projects, small and large, and I plan to take on projects that stretch me a little bit. I plan to continue applying for jobs for which I'm qualified and continue to not take it personally when I don't hear back from anybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to bone up on my database skills just because I've been through several careers in my life. And like a foreign language, if you don't practice your skills, they deteriorate.
Yeah.
And I was an ass-kickingly good programmer in many different languages and worked on very early internet applications when I was working in the insurance industry. And all that is now just, memory now. I couldn't do that if you put a gun to my head. And so I've lost that skill set. And there's another skill set I acquired when I did workforce development, which I keep my hand in. I know the players, I know the issues, and I can quote chapter and verse, but I'm not in the game anymore, and I've lost some of the steps there. So I have pledged to maintain some of the skills I already have and bring a few of the ones I've let rust back into full potential.
That's cool.
Just because.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, I would like to do one science fiction university a month.
That is our schedule. What we're going to do is do No Fair Remembering stuff for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the month. And the last Tuesday of the month on our calendar, instead of No Fair Remembering stuff, we'll do Science Fiction University. Yeah,
because that's fun. You and I like, and we just talking as we do, as lovers do. We've come up with another dozen or so topics that. Oh yeah,
we have, and some of you have sent some in as well. We've put those on the list. And Driftglass did a wonderful post that we cross-posted over at Crooks and Liars about the best TV and streaming movies of 2022. And I suggest you go take a look at it at Crooks and Liars, because your wife edited that post and put up all of the trailers for all of the shows that you said you liked.
Bless your heart.
And they're heavy on the science fiction.
Surprise.
There's a surprise. So there is a wealth of material for us to analyze when it comes to Science Fiction University, and we can toss in that show with that theme and just mention it as something that fits into the themes that we're covering. So we're looking forward to that.
And you should also head over to the Vagabond Scholar,
Oh,
where
yeah.
your brother Batocchio, just one of the great stalwarts of the blogging world, going way
Old
back.
school internet friend. Yep.
Who, when I have to do Mike's blog roundup, I plunder his blog roll. I
Don't
just go in
you?
there.
Don't you,
First of
though?
all, I look to see if he's written anything. He writes a lot less than he. Not that he should, but I wish he'd write more because he's such a good writer. But he's done his annual John Swift roundup, blogger roundup, the best of the liberal blogosphere, the few of us that are left out there. And every year he does this, and he did it again this year. And it's over at the Vagabond Scholar, and he is Batocchio over there.
And boy, when you think about how long ago John Swift did that,
yep,
things are people talking about U2 being around for 40 years, and how that makes you feel old. The blog, this annual thing of going through the best blog posts of the year is. What, maybe close to 20? I think it's 17 or 18 years old. So,
well,
old enough to drive for sure.
Yeah, old enough to drive in some states in this union. Not necessarily see over the steering wheel, but old enough to drive. And I did want to do one more thing before we move to the news roundup.
Yeah,
sort of round out the no fair remembering stuff. I can't stand it. These people keep doing this, etc. I do want to. The Bulwark has been off for a couple of weeks. So they've been pulling their best ofs, and I do listen in, and some of them are good. There was a Tim Miller podcast that was very good. I listened to it, and I enjoyed it, and it provided new information. It wasn't particularly political, and he had a good guest, and so I don't hate the label. The content is just maddening because I see what it's doing to our discourse, and it bothers me. But they're doing best of, so they're pulling a bunch of stuff from their last year. And over the last year, there was at least one podcast where they brought on Tim Alberta, who's a writer at The Atlantic. And I'm just going to read you a couple of sentences from Mr. Charlie Sykes that just, I'm writing a post about it because it just bugs the shit out of me. So Tim Alberta, the son of a pastor, he wrote about the war for the soul of the church back in May. And Tim shares here how the morphing of the evangelical movement into something with a political identity is heartbreaking for him. And later on, Charlie Sykes says, it's one of the things I will admit that I've had the hardest time understanding over the last, now it's, going on 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years.
The transformation of the white evangelical churches. And I'm like, you asshole. You asshole. You have been at the center of the Republican Party and the conservative media for 30 years. You fucking well know about the moral majority. You fucking well know about Pat Robertson. You know about Paul Weyrich. You know about Frank. Who's it? Frank Schlater? No.
Frank Schaefer?
Frank Schaefer Jr. Writing about the history of the Republican Party's involvement with it. It goes back decades. It's always been this way. And this constant repetition that it's only the last 4 years, only the last 6 years, we didn't know about it, it's all happened overnight, is just maddening because it's creating another...
It's a lie. Yeah.
Well, it's a lie, but it's a lie that all of them tell. There's occasional people who step off the res, and you'll get an occasional Stuart Stevens going, it's all been a lie. The racism's always been there. I ignored it. My bad. But that's always drowned out by the constant mantra repetition in the mainstream media and the conservative media, the Never Trump media. It was the last 5-6 years. It's ever since Trump. It's over these last 10 years. It's over the last 6 years. And it's this deliberately creating a false history to lean on for the next political move. It's deliberately lying about the past so you can construct a present in which you are more or less not to blame for what happened. And creating lies about the past. Lying about the past is what got us here in the first place.
Yep.
It's lying about the Clinton administration is what got us Bush. Lying about the Bush administration is what destroyed the Obama administration almost from the start, because all of the shit they said during the Bush administration about the fidelity and the importance of the executive and kowtowing to a president and letting him do whatever he wants immediately went out the window when it was a black Democrat. And I just know in my bones, letting them get away with lying about the past yet again it will cost us dearly down the road. And there's lots of people who disagree with me, lots of people who say, well, they're our allies now, And, as soon as Trump is gone, hey, babe, Trump's gone. They're still here, and they're still
Yep.
telling the same
They're
fucking
still
lies.
telling a lie. Exactly.
And so I'm just saying.
That 5 years, that's the name of their lifeboat.
Right. The last
5 years.
5 years. 5, 6 years. The last 5, 6 years, it's been real bad. And it's miraculous. The moment they got kicked out of the party is the moment everything went wrong.
Yep.
And everything before that, well, it was just fine. And liberals were, bad. And we had to do this stuff because this stuff is terrible. And liberals were excessive. And we had to create an alternate media because the liberal media kept lying. And I'm like, God damn, it's not Trump. It's the thing. It's the machine you built to create someone like Trump. And you want to keep the machine. But the output of the machine will always be awful. And that's something they cannot admit. They can't pick up their brickbats and sledgehammers and destroy the machine. They need that machine because that machine is their alibi. That machine is their livelihood. They love getting paid. They love the fame. They love the power they were getting when they were part of that machine. And they want it back. So they have to invent an alibi in which everything bad that happened since 2016. And that's the last you'll hear of me of that until next year.
Until next year, which is next week.
Year. I will not say another word about that until
next year. Okay.
Until next year.
Hey,
I
let's
swear.
do a news roundup, Driftglass.
All right. After you.
We want to wish Representative Jamie Raskin all the best. He announced that he's starting treatment for cancer. It looks like his cancer is treatable. Grateful for that. Grateful, believe it or not, that Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted prayers for him and seemed sincere about it. And he retweeted her and said, thank you. And that was a moment, more like that. You're capable of a shred of humanity one time, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
Work on that.
Yeah. Well, I wish
There's no money in it, Driftglass. She can't get her $92,000 SUV that way.
No, there's no money.
And a trip to Costa Rica for Christmas as her divorce is becoming final. Her divorce is final, Driftglass. She's now free to be. She's on the market,
Well, she was on the market before. She was, fucking her trainer.
She was her tantric sex guru.
Yeah. So, guys, the line forms on the right.
The line forms on the right. Oh,
yeah. She's available. She's available, but she's very picky about who she dates. So, yeah.
As long as you're at her gym, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The list of the many, many lies of George Santos just keeps growing. Republican Congressman-elect Santos, who has fabricated huge chunks of his life, has now been caught lying about how his mother died. Repeat, how his mother died. He has lied about his education and religion and lied about being the descendant of Holocaust survivors and lied about his college and lied about working for Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and apparently lied about being gay. And on July 12th of this year, George Santos lied about the death of his mother, claiming that she had died during the 9/11 attacks.
Yeah.
Because he's clearly, there's something deeply wrong with him that he just can't stop lying. Now, Tulsi Gabbard beat the crap out of him on Fox News, but please do not be fooled by Tulsi Gabbard beating him up on Fox News. As Martin Landau said in North by Northwest, it's an old Gestapo trick. And it is.
You shoot one of your own.
You shoot one of your own to prove you're not one of them. George Santos set fire to his own life and career before he's even sworn in. He's dead man walking. Somebody at Fox News figured this out, right up to the point where tax attorneys are going to come for him. He is a walking dead man. So why not burnish the resume of your centrist independent who quit the Democrats by giving her the honor of the kill?
Right.
Let her, on Tucker Carlson's dime, beat the crap out of this guy who's already going down in flames to prove that Fox News really is interested in fairness in both sides.
Yes.
Don't be fooled by it.
They'll tear down George Santos so you can trust Tulsi Gabbard. She'll go after Republicans when it's called for.
She's a fiery independent. You can trust her. Yeah.
No, she's not. It is an old Gestapo trick. The Supreme Court, as Wonkette so beautifully put it, now has a only Trump can do that rule for Joe Biden.
Yeah. Yep.
They temporarily blocked the Biden administration's plans to end a Trump-era immigration policy used to quickly expel millions of asylum seekers at the southern border. In November, a federal judge ruled that Title 42 was unlawful and scheduled the policy to expire on December 21st.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it took that long to deal with with Title 42. Yeah.
The January 6th committee released its final report and concluded that Donald Trump criminally engaged in, quote, a multi-part conspiracy, unquote, to overturn the 2020 presidential election, failed to act to stop his supporters from attacking the Capitol, and recommended that he be barred from holding office again. Quote, the central cause of January 6th was one man, former President Donald Trump, who many others followed. The 814-page report reads, quote, none of the events of January 6th would have happened without him.
And that's a real nice out for the entire Republican Party.
Oh, yeah. That has Liz Cheney's paw prints all
over it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
The House of Representatives passed a $1.7 trillion bill to fund the federal government through next fall and avert a shutdown. Bad news for Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
Overall, the legislation provides $772.5 billion for non-defense discretionary programs, $858 billion in defense funding, and nearly $45 billion in assistance to Ukraine. It also overhauls federal election law to try to prevent another January 6th. That really is a significant contribution to our laws on that. Biden is expected to sign the measure in the coming days. It was fun to watch the Democratic House manager tell Republicans who were hair on fire about this omnibus bill that their veterans bill was part of the omnibus.
Yeah. Why do you vote against veterans, you assholes?
Your bill is in here.
Yeah.
I'm against this. Your bill is in there. You just voted against your own bill. Okay.
It won't make a difference to the base because the
doesn't
base
make any difference. Their voters aren't going to hear about it. Yeah.
No.
But it was still fun. I don't care. It was still fun.
Oh, no,
I was amused.
I will take it for the entertainment value. What their base will hear about is that Texas bussed about 130 immigrants to Vice President Harris's residence in Washington, D.C. on Christmas Eve in 18-degree weather, the coldest Christmas Eve on record for Washington. The three buses, which include babies and young children, were chartered by Texas Governor Greg Abbott. But according to Fox Business host Cheryl Cason, Abbott did migrants a favor by dumping them in D.C. in the cold.
Yeah. Fox Business holiday replacement, Cheryl thought that it was a good thing for the migrants because they signed a waiver. She can take a bite out of my ass. Is what she can do.
Sometimes I reach my limit and I got to be real quiet lest I say something that is actionable
by
the FBI.
I know.
Yep.
Well, and as I said on Twitter, I can only say to Greg Abbott what Jesus said to the Pharisees. What the fuck is wrong with you?
What the fuck is wrong with you people? And we know what's wrong with it. We know what's wrong with all of them.
The cruelty is the point.
Yep.
The House Ways and Means Committee voted to make 6 years of Trump's tax returns public. The 29-page summary report shows that Trump reported millions in earnings between 2015 and 2020, but paid little or nothing in federal income taxes.
Yeah. In further IRS news, the IRS failed to audit Trump during his first 2 years in office, despite a mandatory program that requires annual audits of a president's tax returns. This also puts a lie to the bullshit that I can't reveal my taxes because they're under audit. Obviously,
yeah.
Yeah, that's just another lie that has gone by the wayside. During Trump's time in office, the IRS opened one mandatory audit for his 2016 tax return, which didn't take place until 2019 and wasn't completed while he was still in office.
Thanks, Steve Mnuchin. The January 6th committee said it has evidence that the top ethics attorney in the Trump White House advised Cassidy Hutchinson to use the I can't recall excuse and give misleading testimony about what she knew.
In further Cassidy Hutchinson news, the former aide to Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows testified that she saw Meadows routinely burning documents in a White House fireplace.
Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony also revealed that Maggie Haberman is worse than we all thought, which was already pretty bad. The White House wasn't worried about her because Maggie's friendly to us. We'll be fine.
If you're upset by Zelensky in his olive drab fatigues, wait till you see Winston Churchill wearing his air raid outfit to the White House.
Sean Hannity, who has been pushing election fraud lies for 2 years on his show, testified under oath that he did not believe it for 1 second that the big lie was true or that Trump had won in 2020. Did not believe it for 1 second. That's what he said under oath. This is all you need to know about Fox News.
And since January of 2022, the value of the Tesla car company has fallen by an amount equal to half of the entire U.S. federal budget for this fiscal year. Way to go, Elmo. Way to go. Now, just for fun, I dipped back into the archives of the headlines, and I want to read just a couple, 3 headlines from 4 years ago this week. Not 40 years ago, not a decade ago, just 4 years ago this week. First one is, on the 7th day of a partial government shutdown, Trump threatened to, quote, close the southern border entirely until he gets the $5 billion in funding for his bullshit border wall, which Mexico was going to pay for. Headline number 2. Headline number 2. The Trump administration tweeted... I'm sorry, let me start over. Headline number 2. The Trump administration tweeted advice to furloughed federal workers about how to offer to do chores and other maintenance projects in exchange for rent payments. Yeah.
So we were in the middle of a government shutdown 4 years ago, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, partial, but it was
the
certainly
Trump
effective.
Shutdown. This was the Trump shutdown. Guys, you need to go and watch the Pelosi documentary, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's very good.
Very good. And her sitting with Trump in the Oval Office and calling it the Trump shutdown to his face.
Mm-hmm.
And him saying, oh, yeah, I own the shutdown.
Yep, he sure did. And lastly, remember, this is just 4 years ago. The Trump EPA proposed plans to make it easier for coal-fired power plants to release mercury and other pollutants linked to development disorders and respiratory illnesses into the atmosphere.
Well, that must be what all those J6 people meant when they said Trump did so much for them.
And this is, I know it's hard to sort of keep track of. I have a hard time keeping track of it too. But literally everything was sliding downhill towards disaster. Everything was bad. This is kind of a genius strategy. Just set fire to everything. Just set fire to every agency, every policy, reverse everything Obama did down to the lone bicycles on the White House grounds. If Obama touched it, destroy it. And then watch liberals try to salvage what you're destroying while you're off ripping people off, selling bullshit, and trying to get Russia to fund your election. You know, that's why he really is the culmination of the Republican Party. Republicans and the mainstream press have come to expect that the normal thing in politics is for Republicans to get into office some which way, destroy everything they touch, and then Democrats will get in and try to salvage 70% of what Republicans just destroyed, while Republicans go about calling them monsters and totalitarians and cut their legs out from under them. And that's just normal politics in the United States. Anyway.
If I may, before we close up, I'd like to express gratitude again, Driftglass, that your procedure went just fine, and recommend to everyone that if you are told by your doctor to get a colonoscopy, to get one.
Go get it. You know what?
Go get it.
I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. If you mail us a contribution that ends with 13 cents, Blue Gal will send you a postcard, a handwritten postcard. If you do not, I will email you photographs of my colonoscopy that you do not want to see. I'm not saying that's a threat. I'm saying that's a promise from me to you.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. What was that? Oh, my God. Is that what I think it is? Yeah.
No.
Yep, that's what I think it is.
No.
And you will see testimonial photographic evidence that my head is not entirely up my own ass.
Not entirely up your butt. Nope. Nope. I want to also say we're doing the Crookie Awards over at Crooks and Liars, which are handwritten posts by people. We are working this week on these. This is not done 2 months ago and so forth. But the quote of the year for me, for 2022, that really, to me, encapsulates so much of what we're dealing with in media and politics, is from Judge Gamble, who was the judge in the Alex Jones defamation trial with the Sandy Hook parents.
That happened this year.
Happened this year, this summer. And Alex Jones just, first of all, the prosecution got an entire copy of his phone and all his text messages and so forth. And it was just a shit show for him. The whole thing was just a shit show for him. And now he's trying to hide his income and his wealth and so forth and so on. And he's just, yeah. But Judge Gamble said to him while he was on the stand, said to Alex Jones, quote, "You're already under oath to tell the truth. You've already violated that oath twice today. It seems absurd to instruct you again that you must tell the truth while you testify. Yet here I am. This," pointing to the witness stand, the entire witness stand, "is not your show. You have to tell the truth."
Yeah.
I think that's what Sean Hannity came up against when he said, "Oh, I never thought it was true.
No, I knew all along. It was
I
all
knew
bullshit.
all along he'd lost. That was it. This was all just a lie, whatever. I knew all along. It's not your show. You have to tell the truth."
Well, and the Tucker Carlson defense of Fox News.
Yes, right.
No reason is from Fox News lawyers is
right.
No reasonable person would think that he's telling the truth.
That wins in court right now.
Yeah, because we're all adults here. We all know that he's lying. It's just entertainment. He's making shit up. No, the reasonable man defense is no reasonable person could possibly think that this.
Yeah, it's only 37% of the American electorate.
And that's the problem.
That believes the shit coming out of Tucker Carlson's mouth.
Yeah. And there needs to be a new legal standard of, no, reasonable man defense, stand down. Fox viewer defense.
Right.
Does the Fox viewer believe this? And if you think a Fox viewer is like some subspecies that can't function rationally, then put that on the record.
Right.
Then say that publicly. It's like
Fox viewers are stupid, is what you're saying, and no one banks on that more than Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity.
Absolutely.
They hate their viewers. They lie to them every day and think they're stupid. Absolutely.
Because they are. Because they are stupid.
Because they
That's
are.
the thing.
Or something.
The shit that liberals take.
There's something wrong with their processing, that they don't process truth. Yeah.
And the whole, I will diverge from this for just a moment. Joe Walsh did a whole podcast this week, 20 minutes of which was, look, Republicans, I understand your anger. I agree with you. The liberal media controls everything. We're culturally oppressed. The whole New York Times, Washington Post, all the networks, all the cable stations, everybody, Hollywood, everyone is all in the hands of liberals who hate us and condescend to us and refuse to give us any airtime. We had to create an alternate media. Your anger at the liberal media is justified. Liberals are terrible people. They're condescending. They're smug. They think they're smarter than you. So all of your rage and paranoia is completely justified. This is an ally of ours saying this.
Right, right.
But the last couple of minutes are, but you can't lie because that's wrong. Lying about it is wrong. And I just, Joe, we're from the same state. I probably lived 20 miles from you at one point in my life. I would love to get you on a microphone and let's talk about the fucking liberal media for a while, shall we? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about WIND in Chicago, Rush Limbaugh vomiting out of every speaker from coast to coast.
And Fox.
And Fox.
And Newsmax.
Once again, he can't accept the fact that everything he believes turned out to be bullshit. Yeah. There has to have been a reason for him to feel as angry and paranoid as he felt when he was on Fox and on the radio and running for office. And the reason was, well, liberals are terrible. He can't admit that was completely wrong, because that means he's completely wrong, which means he really shouldn't be in front of a microphone ever again. And that can't happen. So it must have been justified in the beginning to feel this way and still justified to this very day. But you can't lie, because that's too far. That's too much. That's a bridge too far. And I'm just, this is my ally who shits on me, calls me first of all, I'm smug and condescending about the right because they really are stupid, Joe. They really are racist, Joe.
You treat them. Your media treats them like they're stupid. That's the point.
They call them stupid behind their back, but they treat them like geniuses when they're on the air.
Yeah, yeah.
You're the smartest, most patriotic people ever. Buy some more dick pills, and here's a flag thing, and I got some pillows to sell you. And that's the business plan. Your media knows how stupid Fox viewers are, and they bank on it. You were on Fox. You were on the radio. You had to have figured out in your conservative brain at some point that the people you were talking to were just dumb and misled, and they kept tuning into you because you kept telling them the angry making shit that they wanted to hear. But that's not something that they're willing to talk about under any circumstances. It was, look, liberals are terrible. Liberals are pussies. Liberals don't know how to do politics. Liberals lose all the time. They need us to help them win because they suck at everything. But all of your rage and racism, and well, not racism, but rage and paranoia was all justified because liberals really are as bad as you thought. But you can't be lying because that's too far. Because it would make George Washington and Abraham Lincoln cry. Anyway, enough for this year. Let's move on to Internet Kitties, shall we?
Yes. Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. And this week we have an Internet Kitty. This is Bobby. Bobby is a precious white Sphinx kitty. You know those hairless cats, Driftglass?
Uh-huh.
Some people are freaked out by them. But listen, Bobby is really cute. And his human rights, we adopted Bobby in the summer of 2021, and we were worried about how our other 4 cats would welcome him. A few days later, after the hissing subsided, our older Sphinx, Bernie, welcomed him like a possum baby.
Aww.
Bobby is a shoulder cat. Yeah, we have one of those. Olive is our shoulder cat. Mm-hmm. Anytime I bend down to get a pop from our kitchen cabinet, I look back up and see him flying off the counter onto my shoulder. He's a white Sphinx with one dumbass tuft of fur on his left side and a fluffy tail. And of course, Bobby eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Drek, your cats will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Bobby at our Facebook page or website, and you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go, Postal Unions. That's the other thing that came out this week. Of course, Donald Trump tried to slow the mail down. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. #fire DeJoy. You've got evidence now. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us and then add on 13 cents. This is not charity. This is what we do for a living, and we appreciate your support. Approximately 1% of our listeners support this podcast with a contribution. One or two. It's going up. We're grateful.
Yeah.
Round 2.
We're moving in the opposite direction of Tesla's stock, which I'm...
Yeah, our stock is going up. Mm-hmm. And you can support us. See our website at proleftpod.com for details. Our PayPal, postal address information, it's all there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And again, if you love this podcast, send us a donation plus 13 cents for our 13th anniversary. And thank you for doing that. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties wish to report that George Santos did not write Abraham Lincoln's House Divided speech.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
Professional Left Podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license, copyright 2022, DGBG Productions Incorporated.